it's Scott Jordan and Mark Warner. It's Thursday, September 10th. COVID video update. Let's take these off. It's the Bullen mask. Mark, how are you doing? We took last week off. Thanks very much for everybody that tuned in and watched the video again. We did get a few hundred views last week, so that's in addition to the previous week's views. And it's very interesting because the story continues to evolve, obviously, right? But let me get into some fast updates on supply chain stuff before we get into the news and what we call fake news or not really news, or whatever you want to call it, facts not stated. But first off, allocation-wise, sprayers are a big problem. You know, everybody's using sprayers. I don't know why all of a sudden sprayers are running, we're running out of sprayers. I mean, don't throw your sprayers away. Please, please take it from the one bottle and put it on the next bottle. We can't get sprayers. We're waiting. We have a shipment coming in about 2 weeks. So good news, bad news is we're running out of sprayers, but we do have a large amount coming in. But please just save your sprayers for the good of mankind, right?
It's also a good green initiative.
Yes, I agree 100%. And then the other news on allocation is we are no longer on allocation for certain of our concentrated disinfectants. As those of you who've been watching the COVID updates have been talking about the quad allocations and everything else. So we now have some concentrates that are coming on board. Talk to your sales associates about what products we've got. There's 2 ounce per gallon, 1 ounce per gallon, quad sanitizer. So we have more concentrate products coming on board. Again, talk to your sales associates. So let's get into the news, Mark. Where do we start?
It's been a busy week. The most amazing thing is all the phone calls that came pouring in earlier this week regarding a popular syndicated nationwide news show.
Yes, that would be Fox and Friends. And we know my good buddy, you know who this guy is. He's very popular. He loves this show. So yeah, we got all kinds of phone calls saying what's going on, because quite honestly, what we've been talking about for the last month or two about all this stuff with COVID and everything. Yeah, everybody's concerned about COVID, but most people don't get involved in disinfectants and things like that. They just want something that they think is going to work. I mean, people didn't even know what dwell time was when this whole thing started. So Fox and Friends has this whole segment on the new miracle product that we talked about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Like it's something that you should be able to go to your Rite Aid drugstore and buy. It's like, what's up with that?
Should we call it miracle product?
Yes. So I don't want to say it's fake news, but I think the best thing to say is it's clearly facts that are not stated properly is the nice way of putting it. I think it's fake news, but
So the interesting way that you phrase that is as you watch the show Fox and Friends.
Yeah, and there'll be a link below this video to the actual footage if you want to watch it. It's 6 minutes long with some supposed experts / retired football player.
From, I forget what team, Scott. I
just remember him saying something about Syracuse University.
It's something about a Cowboy or Dallas. Yeah. Oh, uniquely enough, the product claim that we're talking about only works in Texas and only on American airline jets because their fabric and upholstery and surfaces are unlike those found anywhere else on planet Earth. Yeah. And it's also allowed in 2 sports medicine clinics, orthopedic clinics, because the surfaces in those clinics in Texas are unlike any surfaces found anywhere else on planet Earth. So if you want to actually lay on a surface or touch a surface that's been protected officially and sanctioned by the EPA, you must go to Texas, climb into an American airline plane, and enjoy your exposure to unique surfaces that are nowhere else on planet Earth.
Yes. So
however, Scott, I'm not sure if it's just me, but there's something about that makes me skeptical.
Well, again, you can watch the video yourself. Nowhere in there do they state as the EPA states, the restrictions are, and let me read them to you. EPA's approval allows Texas to permit only American Airlines airport facilities and planes at specific locations and 2 orthopedic sports and spine clinics to use this new product. Nowhere in that Fox and Friends segment do they say that, because so they imply that you should be able, again, I'm making a joke of it, but I'm going to stop at the Rite Aid, or I'm going to go to Home Depot and pick that miracle product up. They don't even talk about the fact that it's an unusual situation. Oh, Mark, I think isn't there something special you have to do before you use this product, this miracle product?
Coincidentally, the recommendation is first you should pre-clean and disinfect with a real disinfectant, then use it.
Yes, that I think that's it. Yeah, that's like double the work. But it's going to give you 7 days, or depending upon maybe one of those other products, it gives you 90 days, 3 months, whatever it happens, it's 8 months, whatever it happens to be.
Well, so all of this stuff is kind of, as you know, Scott, we're joking about it because there's a lot of questions that really need to be asked. And I guess we're the ones to help folks understand what questions to be asking. And the questions to be asking is, how is it possible that this only works in Texas in an American airline jet, no other plane, no other facility? Why only Texas? What happens when they leave Texas? And the other thing that came up on the interview on Fox and Friends was, you and I both know we're living this since February of this year. And the world has gone into a worldwide shortage and allocation of raw materials, of sprayers, of quaternary ammoniums and chlorine dioxides and everything else that is made up of part of the family of disinfectants that are used as weapons to fight COVID-19. Yet on this interview, and that's every manufacturer in the whole world pulling together, trying to help the world. They asked the guy on the interview, hey, do you think that company in Texas can help the rest of the world out? He goes, oh yeah, no problem, man. We plan to send some stuff to everybody in the world. How are you going to do that? When the rest of it doesn't make any sense, Scott. And it's what's upsetting to both of us is that there's a lot of things can be said within our community, the community of cleaning and disinfection. And yet this went mainstream. And the problem with that is, John Q. Public, Mary Homeowner, they don't know what to judge things on. And they take stuff like this like it's pure fact. Just like my kids will see something on the internet and say it has to be true. It was on the internet.
Yeah. Well, I think to close out this segment, the best thing is the one of the last lines in this segment, and we're not making this up, folks. He says, this is the host, the Fox and Friends host says, best of luck if this works. That's good. Yep. Okay, let's get on to some more substantial stuff, Mark. You've got some stuff about enforcement, I believe.
Yeah, well, the enforcement thing is interesting. With everything that you've heard us bring up as questions we all should be asking as professionals in this industry, the quote straight from the EPA is that the EPA is working to combat imposter disinfectant products from being marketed with potentially dangerous claims of protection against novel coronavirus. In some cases, there are statements that products will provide protection from COVID-19 for up to 90 days. Further on in the article, it says, to stop products from being illegally sold in the United States, the EPA is also working with the Department of Justice and other federal agencies to bring the full force of the law against those selling fraudulent or unregistered products.
Good.
So my comment to all of that is that it pays to take the high road and stick to the facts and to the science. And people that have stood too close to this vortex are going to get sucked down the drain.
Yep. Well, I'm glad to hear they're actually going to do some enforcement because, as you know, we get a lot of people sending us stuff about is this product real? Is it not real? I mean, we've reported numerous products to the EPA, and actually I'll put a link on the website where we're going to put this week's video. I think it might even be there, but I'll double check it and make sure it's there. There's a link that will provide, so if you know of a product that's making false claims, you can directly report them to the EPA and then they'll investigate it.
So quick tips on what we look for in false claims.
Yeah.
One of the things is extended kill times. Now, Scott, you and I both know there are coatings that can be used that can provide extended kill times, generally for odor-causing bacteria.
Right.
This has nothing to do with disease-causing bacteria and nothing to do with disease-causing viruses.
Yep.
In most cases. So when people report that to us, one of the first things we look for is, what's the claim against? Is it a claim that it kills putrefactive bacteria or odor-causing bacteria? Or is there really a claim against some form of infectious disease-causing bacteria or virus? Very often we find that the claim, although valid for odor-causing bacteria, it makes no claim whatsoever for disease-causing.
Yeah.
So that's one of the first things we always look for.
Yep. And then we also, it's important to compare marketing claims versus what the label states. And that's a lot of confusion that people often get, that, you know, you can't say something in, you know, in a marketing claim that isn't also on your label. That's actually a federal violation, that you're stating that the product does something that it doesn't actually do. Unless the EPA approve it, it can't be on the label.
So just to kind of give everybody a heads up of the types of things that we look for, and the types of calls that we've been getting, that people are trying to cut through the fluff and find out if there's anything real there. So those are some of the things that we look for. Yep. that have helped people kind of get through the fog and figure out where the facts are that are
Yep.
relevant.
Well, and that kind of leads us into our last segment, which is there's a bunch of new dwell time changes that are coming up. Like I said before, people didn't even know what dwell time was. At the very beginning, the dwell times were, people were guessing that if it killed this, we can use this dwell time. And then things kind of changed, and EPA got very detailed and told you what the dwell times were. Well, now the labels are being updated, and there's some changes coming both for our products as well as others. So Mark, you want to talk about that briefly as to how they qualify which virus you pick and stuff like that?
Well, part of this is because there's been a lot of science and research done on the SARS-CoV-2 virus, and it's an enveloped virus, meaning that it's relatively easy to kill. But there's been a lot of studies on it. Back in the day, when we're talking February and March, when SARS-CoV-2 and COVID-19 first started to raise its ugly head, everybody was so worried about it that the issue was, if there was a kill claim against a very difficult to kill organism, that seemed a valid way to go on the end list. Yeah. And to use the kill time associated with that. So in our case, we've supplied a lot of healthcare facilities, leading hospitals and healthcare facilities, acute care, long-term care. As a result of that, our product line is built up of a lot of hospital-grade disinfectants. And so we've gone after, from the very beginning, the ability to kill things like poliovirus and, in some cases, TB, which is very difficult to kill, canine parvovirus, very difficult to kill. And so those were the kinds of disinfectants that everybody was kind of thinking we better use, like, don't go to a gunfight with a knife. So we were kind of going to battle with this toughest stuff we had. And a lot of what we had kill claims for like norovirus, or it had kill claims for TB or whatever. And those, the one that we worked with in the very beginning, Scott, and you talked about it in one of the first COVID-19 updates, was that we used poliovirus as one of the targeted organisms. And that one had a 5-minute kill time. And so that became the kill time that got listed on the end list.
Yep.
And as what's happened since then is we've found that this virus is easier to inactivate than what we originally thought, because it's got this weak link, this shell that's really somewhat soft. And as a result of that, we're finding that disinfectants that have the ability to kill rhinovirus or rotavirus, these, you know, these terms maybe from what causes a common cold, you know, the everyday flu, those kinds of things, are now being used as the targeted organism to use as a measurement of how much dwell time. As a result of that, a lot of the dwell times on N-listed products like ours
Yep.
and other people's, all those dwell times are being reduced.
Yep.
They're being reduced down to the dwell times in the established efficacy data sheet for rhinovirus and rotavirus. So in our case, Scott, we have RX75, which has got a 3-minute kill claim on rhinovirus.
Yep.
And we have our spray and go, which is a 2-minute kill time. So those are what's happening is the kill time requirements are being reduced because we now know what we didn't know then, that we don't need to use a howitzer cannon to go deer hunting.
Yep, the 75 is in effect already. The spray and go we're anticipating very shortly will be rolled back to that 2-minute time. So I just want to be official on that. The 75 is already officially approved at that shorter time. And then the concentrated disinfectants are also going to be changed to shorter dwell times. We're guessing on something like the 44 ACE, it's probably going to be either 2 or 3 minutes. We're just waiting on the results to come back. So all very, very good news.
Yeah, so I mean, the key thing for everybody to take away that's watching this is that the targeted pathogen being used to earmark the required dwell time is now going to be rhinovirus or rotavirus. So if you're wondering regarding the disinfectant that you yourself are using now, you can go to the efficacy data sheet and you can look up rotavirus and rhinovirus. You'll find a kill time, amount of time, and that's the time to anticipate will be established for the label of that product moving forward.
Yeah. Now, if you're using a disinfectant from a different company, if they don't have those two in particular, there might be some other lesser viruses that they would do. The way the rule is you got to be able to kill 3 different types of viruses. So it's possible a competitor's product might not have those exact same kill claims, but they might have something similar to it. Just to be clear on that. That's all. Okay.
Good point, and it kind of allows us to spread some information out with everybody. We wanted to do this update to show some fake news, some big news, and some real news.
Yes, and don't forget, the most important thing is best of luck if this works. And with that, I say have a great evening. Next day, have a great weekend. Get yourself mashed up, and we will see you next week with, I'm sure, some very interesting news just like this week. Thanks a lot for tuning in.
Thanks, everybody.